Hello and welcome to 100 Yards of Football, Sports Talk Radio. I'm your producer, Jeremiah Long, and joining us is the host with the most, the football encyclopedia himself, a man who knows more about the University of Memphis than the University of Memphis's head coach himself. It's Mr. Vincent Turner. How's it going, Mr. Turner?
How you doing, Mr. Jeremiah Long? Thank you for the fantastic introduction. I'm sure my people from the 901 down on the Mississippi River, Memphis, Tennessee, is going to be very appreciative.
Absolutely. Well, today we're talking about NFL draft prospect Kenny Gainwell. He's the running back from the University of Memphis. Mr. Turner, will you please break down for us exactly what is up with Kenny Gainwell, why he is a great draft prospect, and what is going on over at the University of Memphis? And then for everybody watching, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe to our channels over on YouTube, Twitch, and Facebook, and listen to our podcast daily. But without further ado, Mr. Vincent Turner, please tell us about Kenny Gainwell.
Well, if people out there who's been watching us for the last few months here on 100 Yards Football, a lot of people would know that I'm from Memphis, Tennessee, the great city of the 901. And of course, this morning, Mr. Kenny Gainwell is due to my heart because I follow this football program and also the basketball program to a T. It's been a school that's been in my heart ever since I was 6 years old. So I'm going to tell you about Mr. Kenny Gainwell, the University of Memphis, the 901. Mr. Gainwell last played in 2019 simply because he opted out in 2020 due to the COVID situation. He lost 4 family members to that terrible, terrible disease. So let's give kudos to him and right now prayers to his family. But as far as him being a football player, he's 5'11", 191. I'm going to give you my grade report about him. When you look at him, the catching ability as a running back out of the backfield is an A+. His elusiveness is an A+. The anticipation, A+. The instincts, A+. And one thing about him, his quickness and ability to break through the line and really take it coast to coast, A+. One other good thing about this young man, I'm going to talk about his production. In 2019, 1,459 yards rushing, averaged almost 6.3 yards a carry. He had 13 touchdowns in 2019. From a receiving standpoint, to me, he's the best receiving running back coming into this draft. 51 receptions, 610 yards, and 3 touchdowns. And one critical statistic about Mr. Kenny Gainwell that I call him home run hitter on down there on the Mississippi River. He had 37 plays of 15 yards or more. So the man is an outstanding football player, and you can see he's very explosive. Then he played at the school, the University of Memphis. Think about this. Over the last 4 years, the NFL has came to my hometown, the University of Memphis, in Memphis, Tennessee. It's got some pretty good football players. Think about this right now, the players that's played in the backfield that's in the National Football League. This past year in 2020, Antonio Gibson with the Washington Redskins, 11 touchdowns. Tony Pollard with the Dallas Cowboys, 4 touchdowns. Darrell Henderson with the LA Rams, 2 touchdowns. And Anthony Miller from Orange Mound. A lot of people don't know about Orange Mound. Melrose High School, University of Memphis, Chicago Bears. He had 2 touchdowns. So you can see it's something in the water down at the University of Memphis that's going on offensively. And think about this. Mr. Gainwell has kept up the tradition of the running backs at the University of Memphis simply because there was one great running back that came through there that set the tone by the name of D'Angelo Williams, who during his college career had over 6,000 yards rushing. And then he had a great 10-year career in the National Football League. Then when I think about Mr. Gainwell, I compare him to some of the guys that I watched when I was young. Mr. Gainwell puts me in the mind of a young man that played with the St. Louis Cardinals out of Long Beach State. He's got a little Terry Metcalf in him. Then he got a little David Maggott, who played on that 1986 New York Giants Super Bowl team with Lawrence Taylor out of Townsend State. Then he got a little of him, Kevin Falk, that played running back with the New England Patriots. We all know he got a couple of Super Bowl rings. And then when you're talking about home run hitting, the ability, especially catching the ball out of the backfield, he reminds me of that Florida Gator by the name of Percy Harvins, who got a Super Bowl ring with the Seattle Seahawks. And if you want to go a step further, I would consider him a poor man's Christian McCaffrey, who's right now playing with the Carolina Panthers. And we all know how his NFL career has gone. Then think about this. The young man is from Razoo City. That's right. Yazoo City, Mississippi. They're 6'2", and he went to a high school that produced two of the greatest players that played in the National Football League. One that's playing current, and another one that went to glory a couple of months ago. I'm going to start with the great Willie Brown, who played corner with the University of Grambling, played under Eddie Robinson, got a Super Bowl ring with the Oakland Raiders, had 54 career interceptions. And the other gentleman I'm talking about, Fletcher Cox, the Philadelphia Eagles. If it wasn't for Aaron Donald, he would be the best defensive tackle in the National Football League. He's got 54 career sacks, and he got a Super Bowl ring. See, Mr. Gainwell is coming from royalty. He's coming from royalty. That's what I'm saying. And this young man, I'm not trying to be biased, but to me, he's the best all-around running back coming in the 2021 NFL draft. I know we got Travis Etienne, that's a lot of people are high on. I know we got Najee Harris, a lot of people that's high on out of the University of Alabama. But go back and look at his 2019 game film. The guy, 1,459 yards rushing, 13 touchdowns one more time, 51 receptions, 610 yards, 3 touchdowns, and then go to the game film of 2019 against Tulsa. He had 21 carries, 149 yards, and 3 touchdowns. And then against the University of Louisiana Monroe, 13 carries, 209 yards, and averaged 14 yards a carry. And if you go look at those 2 games on film, you'll fall in love with the young man from Yazoo City, Mississippi. So that's my words about the young man out of 901. And kudos to the University of Memphis for producing an outstanding football player. And all I have to say is this. Dun, 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 dun.
Hey, and I feel you on that one. So thank you, Mr. Turner, for that amazing profile from Kenny Gainwell. For everybody watching, make sure to tell us in the comments, do you think that Kenny Gainwell is going to get drafted, and where do you think he's going to get drafted? This is a strong player we're talking about here. If you're listening to us on our podcast, thank you so much. And if you're not, then please, if you're on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, go over to our podcast at 100 Yards of Football over on Spotify or on Apple Podcast or anywhere that you listen to podcasts, and listen to our podcast every single day. We put a new podcast out pretty much every day over there on the our podcast network. And I just want to remind you, we have this great team. Vincent, Mr. Football Turner, thank you so much for bringing us this draft profile. It's been amazing. We've also got 2-time All-American Bobby Butler. We've got our coaching expert, Kevin the Bull Jones. We've got our draft profile expert and just an amazing sports commentator in general, too, Mr. Logan Landers. We've got myself, the producer, Jeremiah Long. And from time to time, we even bring you a great segment of basketball with Coach Brian Spencer. So please be sure to listen to the podcast and subscribe, and tell us again in the comments, what do you think and what draft prospects would you like to see on the next one? Mr. Turner, would you like to take us out?
I'm going to say this, and since we're talking about Mr. Kenny Gainwell, the University of Memphis, my people in Memphis, Tennessee would kind of relate to this. Mm-hmm. When I grew up in the 60s, there was a a musical company that started that had some great entertainers by the name of Stax Records. And everybody from Memphis knows who I'm talking about. And they had a group that had a song that I called I'm a Soul Man. It was written by one of my best friend's father, Mr. David Porter, Greg Porter. I give you much love. So Kenny Gainwell, when he go in the 2021 NFL draft, he's going to be a soul man. I'm a soul man. Y'all be blessed here on 100 Yards of Football.